Hi, my name is Fukn Greg. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is January 1st, 2019. I decided I was going to get sober on December 27th, but that sounded like a lame-ass sobriety date. So I kept drinking for 4 more days. It's not my first rodeo, but I almost have 5 years now, and this has been a breakthrough year for me. After 4 years, I finally know the difference between Paul and Don.
That's great.
First 4 years I was.
That's awesome.
So I'm having some clarity in mind.
Keep going back.
So my problem is mediocrity, and alcohol was my solution. And I drink in a mediocre way too. You know, I never put down a handle in one night. You know, 2 weeks was more about my speed. But I craved to drink. When I wasn't drinking, I wanted to drink. I had hangovers almost every morning. I hated myself, and I wanted to die. So, you know, I never lost my job. You know, I was only hospitalized once for alcohol poisoning. Never been to jail. But
No jail?
you know,
Still time.
if any of you are here and say, well, gee, I haven't done everything that some of these people say, you know, you can get here soon.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my point. So I'm the third of 6 children in a Catholic family. We all went to church every Sunday, and I still get along with my siblings. My sister has 40 years sober in this program, and every Sunday my siblings and I have a Zoom call together for an hour and a half, and that's been a gift of the pandemic that we've continued on since then. Since we're all across the country, it's been really a blessing to have that as, because we've always gotten along together and we've always loved each other. And hopefully this January we're going to actually get together in person for the first time in I don't know how many years. As I mentioned, we were practicing Catholics, and in the 7th grade back then, you go through a ritual called confirmation where you become a soldier of God. And you know, learning about that, yeah, I decided that if that was true, that the greatest calling you could have in your life is to serve God. And so I thought then that the best way I could serve God was to become a Catholic priest. So at the tender age of 14, I entered the Catholic seminary. I took well to institutional living, and I stayed there for 4 years of high school and 2 years of college after that. My first drink was actually the consecrated blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
And back then, we often had communion with both bread and wine. And Catholics believe that it actually becomes the blood of Christ. But I can tell you that if you're the last person in line, you're supposed to finish what's in the goblet. And the last couple gulps were enough to get me realizing there was something to this alcohol thing. My senior year, one of my friends came up with a bold idea. Our parents' club, the Friends of St. Vincent, had a closet where they kept stuff for their parents' meetings, and in there they kept gallon jugs of wine. So he climbed through the transom and stole a gallon bottle of Vin Rosé and 3 of us went to the reading room. It was, I don't know, probably midnight, and we started drinking. And this was really my first experience drinking. And I drank it like I drank everything else, chug, chug, chug. And it had a wonderful feeling laying there on the floor with my head spinning and all that. And then we decided it was time to go to bed, so we'd walk back to the dormitory, and I walk up the door and immediately threw open the bushes. And then the 3 of us made it back to the dormitory, and I threw up again in the bathroom, and my friends didn't know which stall I had thrown it up with, so they flushed all 3 of them. And this alerted the dean of students, and as I walked out of the bathroom, I was face to face with Father Cairns, and I said, "Good night, Father." And I walked to bed, and he asked my friends, "What's wrong with Stadler?" And they said, "Oh, he's just tired." And we had a curfew as juniors and seniors of 11 o'clock, and there were so many nights that we abused that curfew. You know, this is just one of many. But this was the only time I ever got in trouble for abusing curfew. He had no idea that we were drinking, but we got a detention and had to watch the faculty's windows in their rooms. So I decided then that, you know, this alcohol thing may not be a good idea for me. And I stopped drinking. And I didn't drink again for a while. And after 6 years in the seminary, I no longer felt the calling to do that. I left the seminary and went to Cal State LA and met a woman, and she said we should get married, and so we did. She had told me that she loved me, and if someone says they love you, you should ask them what they mean by that, because not everybody means the same thing. You know, I grew up in this environment with some really close friends and we were all there for each other. And come to find out what she meant is, at that moment, she had a good feeling for me. There was nothing about commitment. Our marriage didn't last long. I was just number 25 of her boyfriend and her second husband of 5. And I hold nothing against her today, and I'm glad I'm not married to her. But near the end of it, she said, "Well, we should go work on our marriage." So I forgo the vacation with my family, and instead went with her up to Seattle, and then she shipped me out to the family cottage near the Hood Canal, and it was beautiful, but she left me there alone while she went and fucked her boyfriend. And while I was there, I discovered beer in the refrigerator, and I had some time on my hands. So, it was then that I began my drinking career, and you know, I learned that the best friends were people who drank and smoked pot, and so that's what I gravitated towards, and that's what we did. And you know, and that was my life for the next 10 years. Drinking beer, smoking pot, you know, always getting up and going to work and all that, but somehow I was able to finish college while I was doing that. And by the end of that time, I was very depressed and wanted to die and hated myself. And my sister, who was in AA, had always said, you know, "Well, Greg, how's your drinking?" And I said, "Well, when the perceived benefits of quitting exceed the benefits of drinking, then I'll quit." And so I did, and I got sober, and I stayed sober until and my second wife left me a month after I got sober. So I know there's something wrong with me other than just alcohol. And so she left me alone with two small children to raise. And after a few years, I said to God, you know, God, I'm lonely, and be careful what you pray. He brought another woman into my life, and I married her, and we had 3 more kids, and we had kids over our head, and she was not supportive of my program, and so I quit going to the program because I'm mediocre, and whatever the easiest thing to do is, that's what I did. So after 14 years of being sober, but not necessarily going to the program, I started drinking again, and then it was on. And at the end of 2018, I had just turned 60, and I thought to myself, you know, my life is in its later years now, and I said to God, you know, I want to get close to you again, God. And God said, well, then stop drinking. And I said, but God, you know who my wife is, and there's no way I can stop drinking. And God said, well, God didn't say anything, He had already spoken. But instead what He gave me was a much worsening of my disease, you know, being much more sick. And the final event was Christmas of 2018. I had agreed to host a family event for Christmas, and I didn't get drunk on Christmas. I got drunk on Christmas Eve, and I was too sick to host the party, and I would get up every now and then and say, you know, I got to go do stuff, and I'd go throw up instead and go back to bed. And so my daughter kicked in and took over for me, and it's very humiliating. And I had the week off between Christmas and New Year's to think about what I'd done and to be sick. And I decided to get sober, and I'd done it before, and so I got sober on January 1st, and I walked in this room to this meeting on January 2nd. And I've been here ever since. So when I got sober, I knew that things had to change. And the first thing I had to do was stop being, you know, a fly on the wall. So when I walked in here, I stuck out my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Greg," and introduced myself to people, and let people know that I'm here. I also immediately got a therapist, and he taught me some very important things. He taught me to forgive myself and to love myself. Okay. And so I worked on those things. I got a sponsor. I worked through the steps, and I made it a practice to every morning look in the mirror and say, "I love you, Greg." It was important to say it out loud. And even lately, after I've stopped doing that practice and I started to get down on myself, I said to myself, "I love you, Greg." And you know, it actually helped again, you know. And just having an affirmation that countered the negative thoughts in my head was very important to me. And it's done great things. So, when I was young, I went out to seek God. When I started drinking, that God was, you know, a very dogmatic God who said, "This is what you do or you go to hell." Okay, so I'll just try to do that. And then when I started drinking, I got disillusioned, and my opinion of God, I still believed he was there, but that he was just the disinterested creator of the universe, and he was just sitting back and watching it all happen and enjoying watching the wreckage. And since I've got sober again, my concept of God has changed. And I now believe that he's a loving God and he wants the best for me, and that his will for my life is far better than anything that I could possibly imagine for myself. And when I fuck up, God draws me back to him. He always wants to bring me back to him. And if I screw up plan A, he's like, well, here's plan B, you know, and just we'll take it up from where you are and keep going. He's not out to punish me. He wants me to seek him, right? So according to one creation story, when God made us, he gave us free will, and I believe God's goal or desire is for us to give our will back to him, and it means so much more when you don't have to do it. I don't believe God punishes us. I believe most of the bad things that happen to us are a consequence of what we've done. So if I drink and get drunk, I crash my car or I get in trouble. If I'm shitty to people, then I don't have any friends. If I eat too much, I get fat. All these things happen. The other thing that we get are lessons. So if I'm stuck on the freeway in traffic, I want to view that as God is putting me there to teach me patience, and we learn our better attributes by being tested and tried. And so I believe all of that. I don't think hell is a place we go when we die. I think I've been there. I think a lot of you have been there. And we can also be in heaven here, and that's being in touch with our Creator. These are all just my opinions. I don't speak for the program. So I don't know what happens when we die, but I know that my God loves me, and I don't believe he's sending me to hell, and I don't think he's sending anybody to hell. He wants all of us there with him, and the better we do here, the better things will be after this. But I don't know what I think. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you.